Let's be real, protein is always the hot topic, right? Everyone's asking, how much is too much? Or am I doing this whole protein thing wrong? It's such a common question, and honestly, it's worth talking about because there's so much noise out there. But don't worry, today we're diving into everything about protein, how to use it, how much you actually need, and when to eat it. And no, this isn't going to be one of those dull lectures. This is the real talk you need to hear. Protein's not just some trendy buzzword, it's legit the backbone of getting stronger, healthier, and crushing your goals. So, how much protein do you really need? Let's break it down and keep it simple. So by the end of this, you'll not only know the answer, but you'll feel like you've got this whole protein game on lock. Stick around, because this is going to shift the way you think about what you put on your plate. Alright, so here's the deal. The World Health Organization says you only need about 0.36 grams of protein per pound of body weight to stay healthy. Sounds super low, right? Well, it kind of is. But here's the catch. That number is for the average person. You know, someone who isn't out here trying to build muscle, crush workouts, or really push their limits. It's like the bare minimum, not exactly the blueprint for making gains. Now, if working out isn't your thing and you're just cruising through life, you can get by with about 0.4 grams per pound of body weight. Honestly, most people hit that without even trying, unless they're on a strict vegan diet. It's not hard to meet this minimum, it's just basic. But if you're here, chances are you're looking for more than basic. You've got goals, right? That's where this whole baseline starts to feel a little shaky. Let's dig in and see why that number might not cut it if you're serious about leveling up your performance or physique. Stick with me, it's about to get interesting. If your goal is to really pack on muscle, that basic protein recommendation isn't going to cut it. But how much more do you actually need? It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. It all depends on where you're at. Are you bulking, cutting, or trying to hang in that sweet spot of maintaining while slowly building muscle? Most people throw around the advice of 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight like it's the golden rule. And honestly, it works pretty well. But here's the thing. Does that number shift depending on your goals? If you're loading up on calories in a bulk, trimming down during a cut, or just trying to stay lean and build at the same time, the answer isn't as black and white as it seems. Let's break this down. The way you approach your protein intake could be the game changer you've been missing. When you're cutting and working with fewer calories, protein becomes your best friend. Your body isn't just using it to build and repair muscle. Some of that protein is also being burned for energy. That's why prioritizing protein during a cut is so important. It's the key to holding on to that hard-earned muscle while you're shedding fat. Instead of scaling back, this is the time to ramp up your focus on protein. Ideally, aim to spread it out across 3 to 5 meals a day, with 5 being that sweet spot for keeping your muscles fueled and your body on point. Each meal gives your system another boost, helping to maintain muscle mass even as your calorie intake dips. And trust me, it all adds up. But let's not overcomplicate it. There's no need to eat 6, 7, or 8 meals a day. The benefits top out at 5. That said, if you're currently doing 1 or 2 meals a day, just adding an extra meal or 2 can make a noticeable difference. The impact is greater when you're stepping up from fewer meals, but every step forward counts. Once you've got this down, it's about finding a flow that works for you and making it part of your routine. So, if you're aiming for 3 to 5 meals with protein each day, you're already on the right track. But when you're cutting, protein takes on a whole new level of importance. Why? Because when your calories are low, your body doesn't just save all that protein for muscle. It uses part of it for energy. Yep, your chicken breasts, egg whites, and shakes are pulling double duty. That's why it's crucial to bump up your protein intake when you're in a calorie deficit. You're not just building muscle, you're also protecting it. Research suggests that around 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is the sweet spot. It's not about eating crazy amounts of protein. It's about being smart with how you distribute it throughout your day. On the flip side, when you're bulking, you don't need to stress as much. Those extra calories from carbs and fats help cover your protein needs, making it easier to hit your targets. That's why advice like 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound works so well. It's a simple, effective range. When you're eating more overall, protein naturally adds up without much effort. When you're eating in a calorie deficit, things can get tricky, especially if you're vegan or vegetarian. Protein becomes harder to pack into your meals, and without animal-based options, hitting your daily target can feel like a bit of a grind. That's where getting creative with high-protein, low-calorie options really pays off. It's not about perfection. It's about making steady progress with what works for you. Another way to make this easier: cardio. Adding more movement to your day burns extra calories, giving you more room in your diet to fit in protein-rich foods while staying in a deficit. Plus, it makes hitting your goals way less overwhelming. That said, don't fall into the trap of slashing calories too aggressively. Going too low can backfire, making it harder to retain muscle and keep your energy levels up. For those following a plant-based diet, yes, the road might feel steeper, but it's not impossible. It's about balance and variety, mixing different plant-based protein sources to ensure you're getting all the essential amino acids. Sure, it might take a bit more effort, but with consistency, it's absolutely doable. When you're cutting, aiming for about 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight is a solid approach. For most people, sticking close to 1 gram per pound hits the mark perfectly. Sure, edging up to 1.2 grams might give you a slight boost, especially if you're chasing peak performance, but for the majority, consistency is what really counts, not chasing every decimal point. If you're eating at maintenance calories, your protein needs don't change much. Since you're not in a calorie deficit, the risk of losing muscle is low, as long as your training is on point. The same intake you'd aim for when bulking will work just as well here. No need to overthink it. Now, if you're trying to build muscle while leaning out, recomposition, it's the same story. Around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is plenty for nearly everyone. Instead of stressing over exact numbers, focus on spreading your intake across 3 to 5 meals a day. This keeps your body steadily fueled with amino acids, which is key for both building and preserving muscle. And what about the question that always pops up? How much protein can your body actually use in one meal? It's a great question, and one we're going to break down next. So, how much protein can your body handle in one sitting? The answer is pretty much all of it. There's no hard limit on how much protein your body can absorb at once. Whether it's 30 grams, 60 grams, or even 200 grams in one meal, your body will process it all. Larger amounts just take longer to digest, but none of it goes to waste. That big steak you just demolished? It's not being partially discarded. It's being put to use, just at its own pace. If you're finding this helpful so far, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tips. It's a small click for you, but it helps keep this channel going strong. This question comes up a lot, especially with approaches like eating one big meal a day. People wonder, am I really getting all the protein I need? Or is it just too much at once? Rest assured, your body is built to adapt. If there were a strict cap on protein absorption, people who thrive on intermittent fasting wouldn't be able to maintain their muscle or health. And yet, many do just fine. That said, while your body can handle a lot in one go, spreading your protein across 3 to 5 meals is generally a smarter approach if your goal is muscle growth. It keeps your system fueled with a steady stream of amino acids, which is optimal for building and maintaining muscle. Fasting isn't a bad thing, but when gains are the goal, multiple meals give you a clear advantage. So, how much protein can your body actually use in a single meal? Studies often suggest that around 20 to 25 grams is enough to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, but there's also evidence that eating more can still be beneficial. Here's the thing, it's not about nailing the perfect number for every meal. What really counts is your total protein intake across the day. Let's say your goal is 160 grams of protein. Maybe one meal has 20 grams, another has 50, and somewhere else you squeeze in 40. That's completely fine. You don't need to evenly split your protein across meals just for the sake of precision. Flexibility is your best friend here, as long as the day's total adds up. When it comes to protein quality, amino acids like leucine play a big role. Whey protein is often praised for its high leucine content compared to something like soy, but that doesn't mean you're out of luck if you're vegan or vegetarian. By mixing different plant-based protein sources throughout the day, you'll still get what you need. It's all about variety and balance, not perfection. The bottom line? Don't stress over every gram in every meal. Focus on consistency, mix up your sources, and keep your overall intake in check. Protein quality can be measured using something called the DIAAS score, which ranks protein sources based on how well your body can use them. A score over 100, top-notch. Scores between 75 and 100, still solid. But honestly, if you're eating a variety of protein sources throughout the day, you don't need to overthink it. High, medium, or even lower quality proteins can all work together to give your body what it needs. For me, it doesn't matter if my protein comes from rice, bread, egg whites, peanut butter, or steak. It's all about hitting that overall daily goal. As long as you're mixing it up and getting enough, you're good. There's no need to stress over whether one source is slightly better than another. And let's squash the anabolic window myth while we're at it. The idea that you have to slam a protein shake within 30 minutes of working out? Yeah, that's old news. Unless you trained on an empty stomach, like first thing in the morning without eating, you don't need to rush to get protein right after. If you've eaten protein within the last 5 hours, you're totally fine. But if you did train fasted, it's a smart move to get some protein in soon to start the recovery process. Now, about protein before bed. That's still a bit of a debate. Personally, having protein within a couple of hours before sleep just makes sense. It helps your body stay fueled while you rest, keeping the recovery and muscle building process going even overnight. When it comes to the type of protein you eat before bed, does it really matter if it's casein, which digests slowly, or whey, which works faster? Most research says it doesn't make a huge difference. As long as you're hitting your total protein target for the day, you're covered. If you're already getting enough protein overall, the type you eat before bed won't make or break your progress. That said, there's a bit more to it if your protein intake is on the lower side, say around 0.5 grams per pound of body weight. In that case, having something slower digesting, like casein, chicken, or steak, might be a good idea. It's not that it's proven to be better, but it does help ensure your body gets a steady flow of amino acids overnight when you're not eating. At the end of the day though, the total amount of protein you consume matters a lot more than whether it's slow or fast digesting. If your intake is solid, you don't need to overthink what kind of protein you have before bed. But if you're falling short, this small tweak could give your recovery and muscle growth a little extra support. Worried you're eating too much protein? Maybe you're loading up with well over 1 gram per pound of body weight, chicken, steak, protein shakes at every meal, and wondering if it's going to harm your health. Here's the truth. If you're healthy and active, there's no solid evidence that high protein intake is risky. Even if you're doubling or tripling the recommended amount, there's no need to panic. In fact, there are some perks to eating more protein. For one, it takes more energy to digest, so it gives your metabolism a little boost. Plus, protein keeps you feeling full, which makes it way easier to avoid overeating or diving into those late-night cravings. Let's face it, most people don't lose control over grilled chicken or steak. The real temptation comes from chips, cookies, and all those calorie-packed treats that are harder to stop eating. So if you're hitting 2 grams or more of protein per pound of body weight, don't sweat it. It's not just safe, it might actually help you stay on track with your goals. The key is not to obsess over exact numbers, but to keep it consistent and balanced. There's really no such thing as too much protein for most healthy people. Even if you're eating more than you technically need, it's perfectly safe and nothing to stress over. If you're loading up on protein to support your goals, you're doing just fine. No need to worry. And if you're ready to dive deeper, check out the videos popping up on the screen now. There's plenty more to help you crush your goals. Don't miss out,